Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. Emperor Yangfeng wanted to blow up, but was too stunned by the words. He said in astonishment, "There's indeed an indiscernible change, so strange. Deaf, cripple, wake up, carefully sense the great Tao of heaven and earth." Blind summoned deaf and cripple over, and the two old men also felt an indiscernible motion as though the spring rain was joining with the wind into the night. The action was mild and slow. What happened? Deaf asked in astonishment. When Mua and Princess Xiao founded Primordial Spirit Guide, this change happened. How bizarre, Blind said. Sense carefully, the great Tao of heaven and earth seemed to be undergoing a marvelous change somewhere. This throbbing is very faint, but it can't escape my Tao heart. No matter if it was cripple, deaf, or even Emperor Yangfeng, they were all great masters. Cripple had comprehended the marvel of divine legs by himself to push his speed to the realm of God. What he used was the technique he had founded, so his Tao heart was also extremely strong. Deaf had pushed his painting path to the extreme, transcending to the level of God and saint. Emperor Yangfeng, in the meantime, relied on the not-so-outstanding Nine Dragons monarch technique to develop it to the highest level in one go, making it become on par with the ultimate arts of the three big sacred grounds. Furthermore, Nine Dragons monarch technique he had relied on was merely a few primitive dragon writings on the Emperor's disc. The other people in the manor, even if it were experts like Granny Sai, Yu Jiaoqing, and Empress Dowager, hadn't reached that frame of mind of a great master, thus they naturally couldn't sense the throbbing and indescribable change in the great Tao of heaven and earth. Your Majesty, your daughter's accomplishments in the future are going to surpass yours by far, Deaf suddenly said. Have you ever thought of making her the crown prince? Emperor Yangfeng was slightly stunned as he looked at Ling Yuxiu, who had sunk into an ineffable realm. Making Princess Xiao the crown prince? He did have that kind of thought at that moment. Have Yuxiu head to the border army to train for a period of time? There is still some rebel army left in the snow plains in the north which haven't yet been eradicated. Let her and Yuxiu lead an army each. Emperor Yanfeng's heart calmed down. It wasn't that there had never been a crown princess before, but just that their numbers weren't as high as those of princes. After all, there were plenty of female divine arts practitioners, and some of the sects even had women as sect leaders. With that, it was easy to see that there could be empresses, it was just that they were in the minority. If Xiao could do better than Yuxiu. Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu woke up from their comprehensions. During them, they had comprehended numerous marvels about the primordial spirit, and it resulted in cultivation methods for it on Six Directions realm. Some could be written down for others to learn, while some could only be comprehended by oneself. They could be understood, but not taught with words. Xiao, my injuries are almost healed, so follow me back to the capital city, Emperor Yanfeng said. Ling Yuxiu acknowledged him as her gaze landed on Qin Mu's body. The one who herds cows, are you going back to the capital with me? We can continue to dual cultivate there. Qin Mu hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. You go ahead first. I need to wait here for Grandpa Butcher to come back. I still have some stuff I need to ask him. He handed a complete version of the male technique of Primordial Spirit Guide to Ling Yuxiu and said, hand it to Imperial Preceptor so he will promote it. Ling Yuxiu nodded, then hesitated for a moment. Nine Dragons monarch technique that you improved, can I teach it to my father? It was your Ling families to begin with, so just teach, Qin Mu said with a smile. Ling Yuxiu suddenly moved forward to give a peck on his cheek and ran away like an alarmed sparrow. Emperor Yangfeng shook his head and brought her to bid farewell to Empress Dowager. I didn't let the officials who followed me to come over, but had them stay at Overlord Prefecture. It's best for them to not know about all that happened in this manner. Mother, take care of yourself. Empress Dowager sighed and said solemnly, you have to take care of yourself as well. What you and Imperial Preceptor want to do won't end with simple death, so you have to be careful. Even though you have already grown up, I'm still worried about you. Emperor Yangfeng turned around to leave and Ling Yuxiu followed after him. Father, the one who herds cows taught me Nine Dragons monarch technique, which is different from what you taught me. I would like to teach it to Father. Does Father want to learn? Emperor Yangfeng laughed out loud and shook his head. Even though your little lover is overflowing with talent and has extraordinary abilities, having accomplished an astonishing feat with you this time, which made even me feel ashamed for being inferior, it's not enough. When it comes to Nine Dragons Monarch technique, your little lover is way inferior. The technique he learned was still taught by me. Are you learning or not? Ling Yuxiu asked with anger in her voice. Okay, tell me about it. Ling Yuxiu told him about the Nine Dragons Monarch technique that Qin Mu had taught her, and Emperor Yanfeng's expression became more and more solemn. When she finished, his face was black as he asked coldly, "He taught it to you?" Ling Yuxiu could feel his overflowing murderous intent and couldn't help shuddering. Father! Emperor's disc is on him. Emperor Yanfeng's face was filled with fury as he laughed from extreme anger. This is a technique comprehended from the Emperor's disc. The treasure of our Ling family was on your little lover all along. I shall now. He was about to fight his way back when he suddenly stopped in his footsteps and gazed at the snowy white manor. He stared blankly at it for a moment before shaking his head and saying to the flustered Ling Yuxiu, "Return to the capital. Emperor's disc is with him, so I'll go ask him for it." Father, don't be angry. Emperor Yangfeng shook his head. I have examined that piece of Emperor's disc for thousands of times, yet I never comprehend anything out of it. The ancestors of Ling family have also examined it countless times yet never found the marvel within it. The throne doesn't belong to Ling family due to that Emperor's disc. There's no need to completely fall out with Heavenly Saint cult. Ling Yuxiu sneaked a look at his face. Emperor Yangfeng looked calm, like water without any ripple. His true intentions were unknown. Xiua never mentioned that primordial spirit guide was founded by you and Minister Qin. This matter cannot be told to anyone, Emperor Yangfeng said solemnly. If you say it, I won't be able to protect you. Stunned, Ling Yuxiu still nodded silently. In the manor, Qin Mu went to check Blind's eyes. The injuries on Blind's legs had already healed, but his eyes were still wrapped with ribbons which had to be removed from time to change medicine. Mua, regarding that matter of founding primordial spirit guide, don't say you've done it, Blind suddenly said. Everyone who saw it must keep their lips sealed, so no word would get out. Understood. Qin Mu was puzzled. Why? The ribbon was undone, and Blind gradually opened his eyes. They had no spirit, but slowly, their black pupils filled with divine light. Layers and layers of formation markings swirled in them, and incomparably deep 9 heavens took shape. Blind's voice was abnormally calm when he spoke next. The law has changed, the path has changed, and the heaven has also changed. The change of heaven will result in death. All the great masters in the world will sense a motion that's out of ordinary. A storm is brewing. In the capital, Elder Fu went into Imperial Preceptor's manor in a fluster to report, "Old Master, His Majesty is here to visit." Imperial Preceptor rose to welcome the guest, and the two heroes of Eternal Peace Empire met. Ling Yuxiu came after Emperor Yangfeng, who gave his friend a deep look. Understanding his meaning, Imperial Preceptor waved his hand for Elder Fu to fall back. Your Majesty came to find me before even going to the palace, so something big must have happened. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked with inquiry at Ling Yuxiu. There's only 3 of us here, so your Majesty can speak. Did Imperial Preceptor felt it? Emperor Yangfeng asked. 5 days ago, the fluctuation of heaven and earth. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor nodded. It was a very marvelous fluctuation. The law changed and the path changed, and there was an abnormal change in the great Tao of heaven and earth as well. Someone created a reform and it touched me greatly. Emperor Yangfeng took out the 2 version of the technique of primordial spirit guide and handed it to him. Imperial Preceptor, take a look. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor flipped through the pages in detail, his expression growing more and more solemn. After some time, he closed Primordial Spirit Guide and said, "It's Princess and Cult Master Qin's handwriting. 6 directions is reform changed 7 stars, celestial being, life and death, and divine bridge, so no wonder there was such a huge motion. Princess Xiao is not bad, Her achievements in the future won't be inferior to yours and mine. He was extraordinarily wise and didn't need Emperor Yangfeng to give him a hint to know that it was made by Qin Mu and Ling Yuxiu. On top of that, he also guessed what consequences their work would bring. Emperor Yangfeng nodded. The source of the reform comes from these two scrolls. I came to find you without stopping for rest because the situation is grave. The effect is still very mild, so those who aren't great masters who had reached the level of skill won't be able to detect it. But for existences who had reached the level of the path, the effect is blatant. You said it touched you greatly, so looks like you entered the path a step earlier than I. I reached the path not long ago, so it isn't clear yet. However, that fluctuation flooded in like waves from all direction, and I was standing among them, experiencing that fine change of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Emperor Yangfeng listened carefully to his words and praised, the realm of the path is truly marvelous. You've been affected this much, so how would the gods feel? Even worse. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's eyes shone with hazy rays as he said, Your Majesty wasn't in the capital these few days, so you don't know that memorials have been flying in like a flurry of snowballs. Your Majesty, please take a look. He took out dozens of memorials which were from various country magistrates all over the empire. Emperor Yangfeng opened one which was by the county magistrate of Initiate Peace County. It said that an earthquake had happened at Grandma Chi Yu Temple. Other places had no tremors, except for Grandma Temple which had collapsed, crushing over a dozen believers. When Initiate Peace County magistrate brought a group of people to clean up the debris, they saw that the mountain on which the temple had been built had split apart. In the huge crack, there was a god statue of a giant's upper body. It was the color of flesh, and the light of runes flowed across its body. Emperor Yangfeng frowned slightly as he thought for a moment. He passed that memorial to Yuxiu and picked another one for himself. It had been sent by the magistrate of Bent Prefecture and spoke about strange incidents happening at Great Bent Lake. When it was midnight, abnormal lights would burst into the sky from the lake, covering its whole surface. There was a huge life form rising from the lake with eyes like lanterns. It was said that it was Bent Lake Sovereign which wanted the people at the shore to offer virgin men and women as tribute. The magistrate sent his bailiff to investigate, and numerous divine arts practitioners had already died. Emperor Yangfeng's brows tensed up as he flipped through the other memorials. Some were about shrines splitting apart, with extremely ancient god statues appearing and shattering the god statues that the people were worshipping. Some spoke of earth shakes and god statues rising in riverbeds. Some of those statues didn't move, but others demanded tribute from people living in their region. There were also numerous places that burst forth with strange lights or had strange creatures appear in their territory. However, no one could take them away. There's no such gods in our eternal peace empire. Ling Yuxiu looked through the memorials, then placed them down. She pondered over what she'd read before asking, where did those god statues come from? They definitely couldn't have just popped out from the ground. Also, the treasures mentioned in the memorials don't seem to have been left by someone, for they are treasures of gods. Not from underground, Emperor Yangfeng said. If they had existed underground, they would have been found long ago. Those stone statues and treasures should have come from another world. It should not be just one world, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said solemnly. Great ruins have similar stone statues, and rumor says that they are gods who had petrified their bodies. They are in slumber, waiting for something, but they can transform back into their real bodies anytime. If these stone statues came from another world, the timing they chose is very peculiar. Princess and Cult Master Qin created Primordial Spirit Guide, changing the great Tao of heaven and earth, and the next moment, numerous stone statues and strange treasures appeared all around the world. There's definitely a connection between them, Emperor Yangfeng said. Imperial Preceptor, the origin and aim of those stone statues have to be investigated. This reminds me of the incident 2 years ago when Jutian Devil King descended. Back then, he relied on Cult Master Qin's sacrifice and a sacrificial altar to be summoned into our world. Furthermore, only his consciousness and part of his power had come to eternal peace, since his body required even more deaths and live sacrifices. Emperor Yangfeng and Ling Yuxiu listened quietly without interfering. What Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor wanted to say was extremely important, so they couldn't be careless. This means that traveling through different worlds requires an immense amount of energy. The stronger the existence that is traveling to another world, the greater the energy required. Since the great Tao of heaven and earth changed, the stone statues of those gods descended. Yet they should have only been able to send their stone statues over, while their power is unable to transfer for the time being. They need countless sacrifices of flesh and blood to call over their true bodies. Emperor Yangfeng and Ling Yuxiu's heart stirred as a terrifying thought suddenly formed in their heads. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor helped them by saying it out loud. They need to create a large-scale natural disaster for many people to die, for only then could their true bodies come to eternal peace. Emperor Yangfeng and Ling Yuxiu's blood ran cold. The previous natural disaster had already caused countless people to lose their lives. An Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had yet to recover from his encounter with the god. If another natural disaster was to happen, the empire was definitely going to fall into ruin, and countless living beings would fall into utter misery. According to my guess, the gods of high heavens will soon receive an order to send disaster for our eternal peace, Imperial Preceptor said solemnly. This natural disaster will definitely not be inferior to the snow disaster before. It can be an earthquake, eruption of volcanoes, tornadoes, floods, or even snow disaster or drought. As long as it's a disaster that can kill billions of people, anything is possible. Emperor Yangfeng croaked out in a hoarse voice, "What you mean is eradicate high heavens," Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said indifferently. We need to eradicate the gods of high heavens, since if I didn't guess wrong, the ones in charge of sending disaster to this world is none other than high heavens. If we get rid of it, all the stone statues around the world won't be able to transform into gods or devils, and the people will then be spared from death. We need to make a move first, eradicating all the gods of high heavens. Emperor Yangfeng felt a splitting headache. He raised his hands to hold his head and gritted his teeth. High heavens is in West Earth and we don't know how many gods and devils they have, so how would we gain the ability to eradicate high heavens? If we could wait a few more years, allowing more experts to patch their divine bridge and cultivate to the god realm. Your Majesty, they won't give you the time. If what I guessed is correct, the treasures mentioned in those memorials are meteorological weapons. Emperor Yangfeng and Ling Yuxiu's blood ran cold. Meteorological weapon was an idea suggested by Qin Mu. By keeping meteorological phenomena, for example, snowstorm, hails, tornadoes, floods, volcano eruptions, and earthquakes, in bottled goods, they could adjust the weather during normal times. If they were to attack enemy countries, they could also use the meteorological weapons to kill the enemy troops. The time Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had attacked the prairie, Pan Gongso had made the great shamans poison all the water sources. To get rid of the shaman poison and save the herdsmen of the prairie, Imperial Preceptor had then used bottled storms to make it rain for 10 days, which cleansed the land and washed away all of the poison. However, quite a number of herdsmen had drowned in the flood. Because of that, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor had been accused of misconduct by the contrarians, which caused him some trouble. If he wasn't wrong and those treasures of gods and devils were all meteorological weapons, the gods of high heavens just needed to come over, and they would be able to activate them, releasing all kinds of meteorological phenomena to cause grave casualties in Eternal Peace Empire. With that many people dead, the stone statues would receive enough flesh and blood sacrifices for the power of those gods and devils to flow in like a long river. Once the stone statues regained their true forms, massacre would begin, and they would wipe out the whole world. I shall immediately send orders and command people to guard the stone statues and treasures. I can't let those things fall into the hands of high heavens. Cold sweat started rolling down Emperor Yangfeng's forehead, and he started walking to and fro. We definitely can't let them find them. Why are they doing this? Can't they just let the people of this world live better lives? I don't understand. The reform touches the benefits of the gods and devils. It changes the Tao, and the gods and devils won't be tolerated by it if they can't change accordingly, said Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. There is definitely an even deeper reason for it, but we are lacking too much information to deduce the truth. Your Majesty, I need Human Emperor to come personally. Emperor Yangfeng looked at him. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked into the distance and muttered, "Only when human emperor calls for it would all the sacred grounds and strong practitioners listen and join hands to wipe out high heavens. Only the human emperor that all the sects revere can make them follow him wholeheartedly." Ling Yuxia was stupefied. Wasn't the current human emperor Qin Mu? Wasn't human emperor seal in Qin Mu's hands? Based on that logic, didn't it mean that Qin Mu also had to attack high heavens? "I'll go speak with human emperor." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor rose and left. Qin Mu was cultivating his primordial spirit with Sai Yinxiang at that moment, the two of them roaming around. When they came to a spot, a majestic mountain there suddenly split, and a huge stone statue rose from the depths of the crack. "What's happening? Is this great ruins?" The two of them were astonished. They suddenly smelled a fragrance, and their hearts couldn't help shaking. "We had just lighted Soul Guide incense to come to play around, and it couldn't have finished that fast. Someone had to have blown the incense all the way to the bottom." Their primordial spirits were summoned back into their corporeal bodies. Qin Mu opened his eyes and saw village chief, butcher, mute, and even old Ma. Qin Mu was astonished. Since Butcher had come back, village chief and the rest should know that Xing'an had attacked and got severely injured. With the danger of Xing'an solved, it was a surprise that old Ma didn't remain in Great Thunderclap Monastery, but instead came with village chief and the rest. "Village chief, Xing'an." Village chief shook his head. "Xing'an's matter is insignificant. I've called you back because there's something important. Are you able to contact Heavenly Devil Patriarch?" Qin Mu's heart stirred as he said, "Did something big happen?" Patriarch and Elder of Discipline left to roam the world and said that Elder of Discipline would bring his ashes back after he died. "Village chief, what exactly is going on?" "Saint Xiong and I discovered something weird when roaming just now. A mountain split apart and a stone statue rose up. Are you here because of that?" Sai Yinxiang nodded repeatedly as she added, "That stone statue was very terrifying and seemed to be growing out from the mountain, rising upward quickly. There's not only one stone statue." Old Ma gave others a feeling that his wisdom was smooth and round like a pearl. "Stone statues have appeared all around the world, and there is about 100 of them. There are numerous strange treasures as well. These objects have all appeared suddenly and are things that are not from our world. Some stone statues had burst from under Mount Meru, hitting it, but they didn't split it. Instead, they were suppressed." Qin Mu had a weird expression. Mute's expression was grim as his fingers jumped rapidly to make weird gestures. "This kind of stone statue is a sign that the gods and devils are descending." Def looked at his hands and said, "The gods and devils from the other world can't cross the world barrier easily, so they chose to petrify themselves into stone statues that have no energy to send themselves over. With this, their primordial spirit and magic power would remain in their respective worlds. If they wanted to regain their body of flesh and blood, they would need blood sacrifices to summon their primordial spirit from another world. We saw a few of the treasures on the way, and they are meteorological weapons used to draw great calamities for massacring the populace." "Don't look at me, that's what Mute is saying." Everyone looked at Mute and village chief couldn't resist asking, "How do you know so much? You understand all of it even better than I do." Mute grinned, signaling with his hands. Def then said, "This guy is acting mute and deaf again. I didn't understand what he signaled. This matter is too terrifying. From what I see, there's no need to find Patriarch or anyone else. Let's return to Great Ruins immediately." Granny Sai said. So many stone statues had appeared in eternal peace, and once they revive, who can defend against them? "Old Ma, don't be a Rulai anymore, let whoever wants to take over. I also don't want this manor anymore, so let's just all return to Great Ruins immediately." Butcher shook his head and said, "Granny, it isn't good to just leave like this, right? Aren't we going to be cowards if we hide in Great Ruins? A man should have an indomitable spirit and fight a vigorous battle." Granny Sai gave him a look and said coldly, "If you aren't leaving, do you want to die? Do you want to return to before, living miserably with your upper body alone?" Butcher's face flushed red from anger. "I won't stoop myself to your level." Village chief coughed and said, "Granny, human emperor needs to take on the responsibility. Take on the responsibility? Granny Sai smiled with extreme anger. Can you take on the responsibility? You couldn't, yet you still pushed Muir into the pit. If you have the capability, take on the responsibility yourself. Look at you now, hiding in great ruins like a rod and acting dead, yet you still have the face to talk about responsibility. Village chief was too angry to even form words. You, what you? Granny Sai asked ruthlessly. There are over 100 stone statues. If you have the ability, go cut down all of them. Otherwise, you shall also go back obediently to great ruins and act dead like me. Def coughed and said, Granny, you're going overboard. How is it related to you? I brought Qin Mu up, cleaning his pee and poop. All you did every day was hit his palm with a black face. If it was not because you could write well and taught Muir to read, I would have beaten you to death long ago. Def stuttered from his fury. One can learn without a beating. You unreasonable woman. Only a lowly person would quarrel. Granny Sai put a cowskin over his head, and Def instantly became a mooing bull. Granny, I think, Apothecary started to say, but was cut off as well. Scram! Granny Sai said coldly. Go back and serve those women of yours. All right, Apothecary replied frankly and turned to leave. Mute knocked on his tobacco pipe and signaled. Shut up, you bad egg, always full of mischievous ideas. Mute lowered his head, feeling extremely wronged. He stopped talking. Cripple opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but Granny Sai turned around to stare at him. Cripple then shuddered and laughed dryly. Why are you so fierce? We can discuss this peacefully, ha ha. Everything is good. Old Ma, say something. I listen to your words the most, so if you say to return to the village, I will return. Old Ma says go and I will go. Granny Sai glanced at Old Ma. If you don't return to Great Ruins, I will go to your Great Thunderclap Monastery, and you can see how many monks will be left in your monastery. Old Ma didn't say a word. Blind, say something. Village chief looked at Blind. If Muir wants to stay, then we shall stay. If Muir wants to return to Great Ruins, we shall also return. Granny Sai looked at him coldly, and Blind closed his eyes. Granny, if you want to take Muir away, they can't stop you, but I can. I brought Muir away once, so I know his resolve. We are all old, and if village chief won't manage to patch his divine bridge, he probably won't make it past next spring, so why do we have to strain our relationships? Just listen to what Muir has to say. Granny Sai's heart softened, and she looked at Qin Mu. In a gentle voice, she said, Muir, you are already a grown-up. The baddies of the village taught you to be like that, but you shouldn't learn bad from them. Follow Granny back. You shall marry any girl you like, and Granny will wait to carry her grandson. Qin Mu looked around in a daze before lowering his head. Sai Yunxiang looked around her surroundings, also slightly at a loss. She didn't know what was happening. Aren't is pretty or inspiring, scolding all these godlike existence into obedience. When can I become this impressive as well? After a moment, Qin Mu raised his head. These stone statues are like the stone statues of great ruins, gods and devils who had petrified themselves, but they had suddenly appeared because Yushio and I founded Primordial Spirit Guide. Those stone statues have came to wipe out eternal peace, right? In that case, the trouble is caused by me, isn't it? They are here to kill me. It might not have been caused by you, but Emperor Yangfeng killing Jade Sovereign of High Heavens with the cannon. Based on the timing, High Heavens should have reported that event to their masters. Besides, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and Emperor Yanfeng's reform would have brought this sooner or later, just probably several years later, village chief explained. This change doesn't rest solely on your shoulders, but also the reform. First, Emperor Yanfeng's cannon raised the attention of the Masters of High Heavens. Then, Princess Xiao and you founded Primordial Spirit Guide, which brought about some changes to the Great Tao. In that case, part of the reason is still me. Qin Mu pondered it for a moment, then said to Granny Sai, Granny, I'm not going back. I still have many friends here, like Wei Yong, Chen Wanyun, Mu Qingdai, and Yu Qinghong. I don't want to hear news of their deaths a few years later. Didn't you guys say it before? I should clean up after myself. Granny Sai was slightly stunned. Butcher taught you to be loyal, so you are really going to be loyal? What's loyalty going to do? Can it save your life? Qin Mu shook his head. It won't, but it will put my heart at ease. Granny Sai was first stunned, then she sighed. At ease? I don't know if you'll still be able to feel at ease when Eternal Peace Empire is wiped out by the fire of war. But you have grown up and have your own ideas. Fine then, I won't force you. Invite Patriarch back. Qin Mu blinked and asked with curiosity, why do I have to invite Patriarch? We old bones discussed and felt that high heavens would come to activate the treasures which broke out from the earth and release various natural disasters, using the resulting deaths as sacrifices to bring over the gods whose stone statues have risen in eternal peace. To stop that, we discussed a plan to attack the high heavens to prevent their actions. Since those statues are the bodies of gods and devils, why don't we just smash them? Qin Mu asked in bewilderment. Once the gods and devils petrify themselves, they become incomparably tough, too hard to shatter, Blind said. Have you ever seen shattered stone statues in great ruins? Qin Mu pondered over it, realizing that it was indeed the case. He had roamed around in great ruins numerous times, but rarely seen shattered stone statues. However, he had seen numerous Dragon King statues whose heads had been severed in the East Sea. That time, it should have been the Heavenly King of Heavenly King Temple. He'd ridden the Dragon Chiline to quell the rebellion in the East Sea, using Green Dragon Crescent Blade to sever the heads of Dragon King stone statues. Can we move the stone statues to Great Ruins? Qin Mu asked. If we move them to Great Ruins and place them near the stone statues there, we wouldn't have to worry about them reviving and created a ruckus. Cripple smiled and said, carrying a stone statue is like carrying a god. Who can carry a god and walk tens of thousands of miles to Great Ruins? Besides, it's not just 1 or 2, but over 100. Qin Mu frowned. The god statues were indeed terrifyingly heavy. An existence like Old Ma would have to rest after walking just 1,000 yards. On top of that, Old Ma was a person who had a strong corporeal body. Saint Xiong, what method does the sacred cult have to contact Patriarch or Elder of Discipline? Qin Mu turned his head to ask the girl. My Sai family has 2 heart inspection mirrors which act as a pair. By mumbling the other person's name and imagining their voice and appearance, one is able to contact another person, seeing them and hearing their voice. Patriarch and Elder of Discipline have 1 such inspection mirror, so it's simple to contact them. I shall go inform Elder Lady and get her to contact Patriarch. There's still a toy-like heart inspection mirror in the sacred cult? Qin Mu said in astonishment. Sai Yinxiang rolled her eyes at him. You became the sacred cult master 2 years ago, and how many times have you gone to Saint Arrival Mountain? The sacred cult Sai family, Yu family, Sha family, have you visited them? If you weren't a decent cult master, I would have long rebelled against you. Qin Mu smiled. You won't, you don't have the ability. Sai Yinxiang was driven mad, but could only contact the great-grandmother of Sai family. She wanted to be as awe-inspiring as Granny Sai, but the brat didn't give her face, giving her no chance to become impressive. Grandpa Butcher, the sun, moon, and stars in the sky, the Milky Way, and the constellations are all fake. Qin Mu came to Butcher's side and said, Grandpa Butcher should know numerous secrets, right? Butcher pulled out his pig-slaughtering knives and grinded the blades against each other. When talking about this, I can't not talk about the martial art I founded. Every cloud has a silver lining. Back then, I was a great master of the battle techniques, and all I wanted to do was to create an ultimate art that had no comparison. Back then, I was overflowing with confidence and felt that I was invincible in this world, that any divine art could be destroyed with 1 knife strike. However, I had never fought with heaven before, so I wanted to split the sky and jump out to fight with heaven. This video will end here.